Everyone thought they knew Dale Evans. She was the smiling cowgirl, the gentle voice beside Roy Rogers, the woman who seemed to live a life stitched together with faith, love, and Hollywood sunshine. On screen, she rode horses under wide blue skies, sang songs that felt like promises, and spoke words that sounded calm, certain, and unshakable. To millions, Dale Evans wasn't just an actress, she was reassurance itself. Proof that fame didn't have to destroy you. Proof that love could last. Proof that faith could carry you through anything. But behind the smile, behind the carefully chosen words and graceful posture, Dale Evans carried a truth she rarely spoke out loud. A truth so heavy that even in her final years, it remained difficult to fully reveal. What the world saw as strength was often survival. What sounded like certainty was sometimes fear held very still. And what looked like peace came only after years of silent battles few ever noticed. Before her death, Dale Evans left behind fragments of a confession not dramatic, not explosive, but deeply unsettling in its honesty. It wasn't about scandal or crime. It was about something far more painful, the cost of pretending to be strong when you are breaking inside. Dale Evans was born Lucille Wood Smith in 1912, long before Hollywood lights ever touched her life. From the very beginning, stability was not something she knew well. Her childhood was shaped by absence, confusion, and a longing to belong somewhere safe. She spent much of her early life moving from place to place, never quite rooted, never quite certain where she fit. Even as a young girl, Dale learned an early lesson that would follow her for the rest of her life. If you want to survive, you smile. You perform. You don't ask too many questions, and you don't show how deeply you hurt. Music became her refuge. Singing allowed her to say what she couldn't speak. Performing gave her control in a world that often felt unpredictable. By the time she reached adulthood, she had already mastered the art of appearing confident, even when she felt anything but. Hollywood arrived like a promise, a chance to reinvent herself, a chance to leave behind the confusion of her early years and become someone admired, loved, and admired from a distance. Dale Evans stepped into that promise willingly, shaping herself into the image studios wanted: bright, wholesome, dependable. And it worked. She found success on radio before transitioning to film. Her voice was clear, comforting, and sincere. Audiences trusted her instantly. Producers saw her as safe, reliable, someone families could welcome into their living rooms without hesitation. But the more her public image solidified, the more complicated her private life became. Dale married several times before finding the love she would become most known for. Each marriage carried hope, and each disappointment carved something away from her spirit. These weren't just failed relationships, they were quiet confirmations of a fear she had carried since childhood that love could vanish without warning. Then came Roy Rogers. Their partnership looked like a fairy tale. Roy was already a beloved cowboy star, and together they became an icon of American innocence and optimism. Their chemistry felt genuine because, in many ways, it was. They respected each other deeply, leaned on one another, and built a life that looked stable from the outside. But even in this marriage, the one history remembers as enduring, there were truths Dale struggled to face. She later admitted that being married to an icon meant living under constant expectation. People didn't just love Roy Rogers, they needed him to be perfect. And by extension, they needed Dale Evans to be perfect too. There was no room for doubt, no room for despair, no room for exhaustion. So she hid it. She hid the fear that she wasn't enough. She hid the loneliness that came even in crowded rooms. She hid the grief that would soon arrive in forms she never imagined. The greatest fracture in Dale Evans' life came through motherhood. She longed to be a nurturing, protective presence, a mother who could provide the stability she herself had lacked. But fate did not give her that story easily. She endured miscarriages that were rarely spoken of in that era, losses that were treated as private disappointments rather than profound grief. Then came the birth of her daughter, Robin. Robin was born with severe developmental disabilities, diagnosed later as having what would now be recognized as profound cognitive impairment. In the 1950s, society had little understanding, compassion, or support for children like Robin or for parents raising them. Doctors advised institutionalization. Friends avoided the subject. The public, had they known, would not have understood. Dale and Roy faced an impossible choice, one that would haunt Dale for the rest of her life. Robin was placed in a care facility, a decision made under pressure, fear, and the belief that it was the right thing to do. But no matter how logical it seemed at the time, the emotional cost was devastating. Robin died at just 2 years old due to complications. Outwardly, Dale remained composed, faithful, gracious. She spoke of God's will, of peace, of acceptance. But privately, the guilt never left her.